This morning we've been joined by Dr. Kelvin Owusu, Head, Occupational Health and Wellness, Claren Health International. And we are looking at vaginal dryness. Doctor, so a week from today will be Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And it's going to go down real hard.
It is. Some of the packages flying around is juicy and kasa.
Yeah.
So yes, it's going to go down.
But after all is said and done, it comes to one thing. More or less.
Very, very important thing.
So people have given all kinds of explanations for Valentine. Oh, it's for loved ones, it's for this. Look, Valentine for me is for lovers. You can show love to your friends, your family, everybody during Christmas, on their birthdays. I mean, sometimes on a normal, sinful day, we can decide to show love. But when it comes to Valentine, for me, yes, David.
I want to ask Dr. Kelvin.
He's all yours.
Dr. Kelvin.
Yes.
Why is this even a conversation for us to have when there's lubricant in the shop?
Okay, so let's start a conversation from the Valentine angle. So in that respect, lubricants will definitely help. In fact, I mean, the commonest for premenopausal women, one of the commonest causes of vaginal dryness is that you are just not that into it.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not feeling the vibe.
But it's normal, isn't it?
Yes, it's a normal occurrence because you know. For a woman, sex for a woman is more of it's more psychological than it is physical. Yes. Even though, of course, physical is also part of the whole thing. But for a woman, it starts in the mind. So, typical example: if you have annoyed the woman, and then you are trying to sort of engage her, make out.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. You know, and even if you did go beyond that stage, so long as she hasn't forgiven you, when it comes to the actual act of penetration, there's going to be resistance, and that's where the dryness comes in. You know, so in that respect, I mean, lube will definitely help. You know, it will make a huge difference. It has to be water-based lubricant. You know, so I mean, you have to read the instructions and then make sure that it's water-based lubricant because sometimes it can cause problems. Now.
No, I was going to ask something. So, when you put psychological issues aside, you know, as a woman, what would cause? So, for instance, nobody has annoyed me, but I realized that, you know, I'm happy, but I realized that I'm experiencing dryness. What would, on a normal day, cause this? Can it be a sickness? Can it be something else? Maybe how we are wired as women?
So I did mention our premenopausal women. So the commonest cause of dryness is actually menopause. Okay. You know, and vaginal dryness is one of the first experiences that women would go through when they reach the age of menopause. So
you know, menopausal ages vary.
It varies.
So let's say that between the ages of this and that, you are likely to experience this. So
typically, beyond the age of 45, you know, most women will begin to experience the symptoms of menopause, such as irregular periods, you know, the vaginal dryness. And the interesting thing is that the vagina is actually one of the first places to experience the menopausal symptoms. Okay. Basically, menopause is a stage in life of a woman when estrogen begins to go away. You know, estrogen, the woman is no longer has the capacity to give birth again because estrogen levels begin to drop and eventually estrogen ceases. You know, and the vaginal cells are one of the first to feel this change. You know, and so whereas normally there would have been a film of secretions, you know, sort of protecting the vagina or keeping things going in and out, because estrogen is no longer in the game, that is lost. And then on top of that, this same estrogen would usually maintain the cells of the vagina. Now, because there's no estrogen, the cells begin to atrophy. When we say atrophy, the cells begin to die off. You know, so the vagina literally begins to thin out. You know, and it has been described as the skin behind your palms. Okay. You know, so it actually becomes so thin that the slightest problem can actually cause a breakage. So typically, postmenopausal women can actually report spotting after having sexual intercourse. Okay. You know, because of the friction. You see, because the lubricant or the lubrication would have reduced the friction, and then there would have been pleasure. But now that lubrication is missing. Okay. You know, so when we talk about vaginal dryness, typically we're actually referring to that category of people because then it's a more serious condition. Because if it's just that you are upset with the man, that one, I mean, we can talk about it, we can deal with it.
Okay. So if I'm not 45, so if I am experiencing something like this and I'm not upset with anybody, what does that mean?
So it could mean that, like I said, your estrogen levels have started declining. Okay. So you are getting into the so menopause is when it stops. Yes, so menopause is when it stops.
Yeah.
So premenopause is when it is stopping.
Okay.
And then postmenopause. So perimenopause is pre and post.
Okay,
So that's together.
Okay,
so that's perimenopause. You know, so when it begins to stop. So like I said, the age there's no one age where it happens. Some women can go all the way up to 50 and they are still having their normal period. Some go 51 and then they now start experiencing the symptoms. Some also start much earlier. I mean, I've encountered a 35-year-old who had actually begun going through that. Yes, it's a familial thing. So I mean, you look to your mom. If your mom had menopause around, let's say 45, typically you are also going to experience similar. So you know, it kind of runs in the families. Of course, there are ways of dealing with it, and it's very important. Unfortunately, most women do not report this situation, this whole vaginal dryness, to their doctors, and so they endure. You see, because at that point, it's not just enough to use the water-based lubricants I mentioned. Because what happens is, if it's a premenopausal woman, I mean, young fertile woman, if you use the gel, the body's natural mechanism usually will take over after some point. But here is the case: there's no mechanism to take over. So if you use the gel will dry at some point.
You have to keep
exactly.
applying.
I mean, and who is really going to stop and apply another?
David.
You know.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. Doctor, continue.
Yeah, I mean, so it becomes a real issue. You see, and so you need to. I mean, it's a very uncomfortable subject to talk about, but I mean that's what we doctors are there for. Exactly. You see, so please, I mean, you know, open up and let us know, because there are ways of helping.
Okay, so tell us the ways, you know, we know that the loops are there, but beyond that?
So beyond that, I mean, I did mention that it's an estrogen issue. I mean, it's a natural stage in every woman's life. Estrogen will stop at a point. And if estrogen does not actually stop, then your risk of breast cancer and other cancer actually begins to go up. So estrogen will definitely stop at some point. Now, when the estrogen stops and you are going through this menopausal symptoms and you do report it, there are topical creams that can be prescribed for you, that can be applied. I mean, initially, you probably apply it. I mean, there's a routine to apply it, but after some time, you may only use it like once or twice a week. You know, so it's something that needs to be, you know, you need to talk about it so that we can give you the right help. And these creams are applied. When I say topical, it's only for the area in question, which is the vagina, the mucosa.
So they are not lubricants?
They are not considered lubricants. These are actually hormone replacements.
Okay.
But where, you know, you are taking a hormone replacement by mouth, we don't want you to do that, because estrogen prolonged exposure can put you at risk of breast cancer especially.
Okay.
So we don't want you to take hormone replacements by mouth. So there are topical creams that can be applied to the vagina and can actually help you overcome the dryness that you experience, because this is not just an ordinary lube that you can just grab from
Okay, so
anywhere.
let me ask this quickly. Has vaginal dryness got anything to do with libido issues?
So obviously, I mean, if you were to have sex and it's painful, I mean, you have burns and then now you're even bleeding, would you want to have sex again?
No.
So it does lead to a low libido, or a refusal to have sex. So yes, I mean, there is a connection. But having said that, there's also, I mean, once you reach menopause, basically a lot of things dial down. You know, so even the urge assuming the vaginal dryness was not so bad, the desire to have sex, you have to understand that, let's put it this way. You have to understand that the whole act of sex, the evolution of sex is aimed at one thing, which is procreation.
Yeah.
So now, if there's no procreation, then the motivation to have sex is no longer there.
Okay.
So that's, if you come from that point of view, then you understand why libido issues go down.
So naturally your system will help you.
Even in men, when you reach a certain point, your libido actually comes down, but not to the same degree as that happens in women.
There's a lady, Shanice, in Ablikuma, asking this question. What about a woman who is just in her 20s experiencing dryness?
Okay, so there are other causes of vaginal dryness. It could be a hormonal imbalance, easy. I mean, and it's still the same estrogen. So if any woman is experiencing vaginal dryness, especially if no man is upsetting her, you know, it's just not happening. You need to come in for a conversation so that we know exactly how we can help you.
Okay.
But just understand that once we can identify where the problem is coming from, then we can help you. And it's not about hearsay, because sometimes a lot of women depend more on their friends and, you know,
sharing stories around.
Exactly, and that typically does not help, because they end up spending a lot of money, wasting a lot of time doing various home remedies that really don't help. You see, so come in, let's analyze the situation. If it's a simple hormonal imbalance, what is causing this hormonal imbalance? Because yes, there are so many products out there on the market that they say helps with this issue, but most of them are treating the symptom. What's the cause? You see, we need to find the cause, deal with that cause, so that we can, overcome it once and for all.
Doc, how do people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm quite active on social media, Kelvin Owusu MD, on all channels, and then you can also...
No, we like active people, active guys.
Well, Valentine is coming, so we have to work on the activity.
A week from now. You need it. No, can exercise help in any way?
Yes, exercise.
Even for a woman?
Yes, for a woman. Especially for a woman. You see, exercise actually helps with hormone issues. It helps with mood. It helps with what's it called? The happy hormone. I mean, the name has just escaped from endorphins. Yes. You know, so if you exercise, you tend to improve your sex drive.
Okay.
You know, and this actually cuts across whether you are premenopausal, postmenopausal. You know, so once you are active, it definitely helps you. So by all means, exercise. So
it's not always the case that, you know, if your woman is dry or not showing a lot of signs, maybe they're getting it somewhere else, or there's something wrong. It could really be medicinal, you know, it could be biological issues and all. So just understand the issues as well and relax more for us. Continue.
Hey, Frema.
Yes.